It is Shaggy, and welcome to the live show where today, well, oh God, we're going to be covering a lot is happening. If you'd like to join the show, you can do it very easily, 877-6363. I got to say big shout outs to the kids from Kamehameha Schools who are actually running the show today. Now, before we get into everything and all the craziness and making sure that the show actually runs, let's roll the intro. Did I push the right button yet? I don't know.
Live from beautiful downtown Kahului, on the #1 island destination on planet Earth, the Valley Isle, Maui. From the Akaku studio at Halfway to Hell Plaza, it's live! And now, a man that's known far, but not wide. It's Shaggy!
On the show today, I'd like to say welcome to our guest. You're going to love this. Her name is Shay, and, well, Shay, hello, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, God. Okay, so this is fun because today, not only did we get a chance to have a lot of fun with our summer interns, building all of this crazy stuff that nobody at home can see, but you can see it. It's pretty crazy.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. But we did all of this so that today we could show, for the first time ever, one of the fun, oh, God, these are the, like, ever since I became an adult, toys, you lose interest in them by 5 or 6, right? You're a guy, gadgets.
Yes.
You develop that love, and you have built a gadget book. It's an ebook or an iBook.
It is, and it's actually not, everybody knows what an iBook is or an ebook is.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy almost any book in a digital format, and you can read it on your Kindle or on your iPad and in various different, there's all these different new ways you can read them, even on your phone. But my book is actually an iBook, and I think a lot of people don't know exactly what that means, and it means that it's only available on the Apple iBooks platform, and it's actually interactive.
Oh, okay. So first off, I got to ask the obvious question. How long have you been a writer?
Forever, I guess, but not this kind of writer. I actually have been a grant writer on Maui for almost 20 years and written lots of grants.
Okay, whoa. What, by definition, is a grant writer? Because
a grant writer is somebody who writes proposals. Well, what everybody thinks is somebody who gets you free money, but it's not exactly like that. But I write proposals for Maui nonprofits. Mostly Aloha House, Maui Youth and Family Services, Malama Family Recovery Center, to help get funding for programs that help people.
So if I ask you, could you, I mean, because we make no profit on this show ever,
Yes.
could you like write grants for anybody that wanted?
Any nonprofit, yeah. And that's what I do for a living. And that's actually part of the story of the book in a way, because the book is called Lean On and Lead, Mothering and Work in the 21st Century Economy. And one of the points of the book has to do with how difficult it is in our society to work and make a living, to feed your family, and to raise your family. There's this conflict in terms of the time. And so people have to try and figure out ways to do that. And one of the ways that I was able to do it on Maui was as an independent grant writer, because I could make my own hours, I could work at night while my kids were sleeping, and I could make a relatively decent living, and that's what a lot of parents have a hard time figuring out.
So this is, would you say that, because I've never read the book, this is the first time that we're going to open it up on the show that took us, I'm not kidding you, 6 hours to build the contraption just so we could open one iBook.
Yes.
But is this a parenting book?
It's actually, that's a funny question, because if you go to the iBook store, and you will find it under parenting. You will also find it under memoirs and autobiographies, because it's 26 stories, people's real stories about their lives, parenting and working. It's also a sociology book. I think it's actually an economics book, to be perfectly honest.
An economics book. So, and I've had an actual doctor on the show talking about financial literacy. So when you say economics, are you talking about like just regular household budgeting, or the economics of life in general?
I'm talking about the economics of our society, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I think this is an important point, actually, because actually you may not know this, but today is Mom's Equal Pay Day. There was Equal Pay Day, which was in April, which was about women and equal pay, and today is officially Mom's Equal Pay Day. And I don't know if you know anything about Equal Pay Day and what it means, but
You know what? I'm just going to play completely stupid here because chances are I am. Explain to me what's going on here.
So I don't remember what the exact date of Equal Pay Day is, and I should because I actually wrote an op-ed for the Star Advertiser. But it was in April, and what that was taking the amount of time that it takes for women to earn the same amount of money as men in a year. So if it takes you, the amount of time or the amount of money you earn from January to December, the average woman would have to work from January to December and then the following 4 months to, I forget what day it is in April, but a specific day in April. However, that's the average of all women. So that includes, obviously, white women, black women, all kinds of women, low income, high income, low income.
Oprah rich women.
Yes, exactly. And it includes mothers. And mothers make less than everybody else because mothers have to take time off to, give birth to children, often to be able to have time to nurse their children. They take time off during different periods to raise their children, and that impacts their income trajectory. So they have these gaps, and then of course there's discrimination because employers often think, oh, she's a mom, I can't count on her, and then they pay less also. So there's like a motherhood penalty. So today, whatever day today is.
Today's Thursday, June 12th.
It's that much longer for a mother, if you just take mothers alone, to earn the same as your average man. And of course that doesn't impact fathers generally. So that's the big unfairness of the whole thing is men get to have kids also, and sometimes they do.
Men can have kids?
Yes.
There is like something going on in science I wasn't aware of. When can men have kids?
Well, no.
No, I'm kidding. But no, this is the thing. So, I just want to lay this out here, and I know it's going to sound humorous, but so you wrote a book about kind of parenting, kind of just being a normal person.
Right.
And you did this while you were a mother who was flat broke trying to work at home on odd hours.
Yes. It's kind of astounding, isn't it?
It is.
Well, sorry.
No. I mean, for me, this is like, I have 1,000,000,001 things to do in a day. I have this project that I've wanted to get out for years and years and years and years. You know what happens? Life gets in the way of this. So you being a mother, obviously, being a grant writer who is, I would say, at nonprofits, you got to be in pretty high demand. You don't have a lot of time to do this project. How did you find time to do not only just a regular book, but for God's sakes, an electronic book?
So first of all, I'm exactly like all the other mothers because that's what we all do, right? We all balance and scramble.
Well, I'm going to assume that all mothers are typically women.
Yes.
So, yes, we are.
But they're not totally women. So I have some men in my book, and we'll get to that. But
Fathers?
Fathers, I said. Did I say fathers?
No. I'm just thinking, is that what we would call them?
Yeah, exactly.
Male mothers? Fathers?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And so, one reason is, and I actually was just saying this to my husband, I just found out that I got invited to this White House summit, which is in 2 weeks. And there's no possible way I could have done it 15 years ago. My kids are actually going to be a junior and senior in high school, similar to your interns out there. And that's part of why I can't do it. I have a lot more time now than I did when I was younger. It still requires, parenting teenagers is a whole different ball of wax that requires a lot more focus than I think people realize. But it's definitely not the same thing as when you have a 3-year-old or a newborn or even, elementary school
so I know
kid.
this is way off topic, but I have a daughter.
Oh, okay,
and
good.
Can you just give me what is the worst thing about them turning into teenagers right now?
How old
just
is she
so
now?
I know. She's 7.
Oh, you've got time.
No. You don't understand. In a father's world, 7 means I need to start panicking.
Yeah, well, especially for daughters.
Yeah.
Yes. I think, the computer stuff is scary because they have a secret life, and that's kind of hard.
Well, that's just it, too, because as parents, some of us are kind of clunky on this technology, and our kids, they just treat it like second nature.
No, it's
Is
true.
this the reason that after you started assembling these thoughts, you thought, instead of committing this to print, I want to put this in something electronic? I mean, how did you make the jump from just wanting to get the information out to saying, I want to actually make the information cool?
So, actually, that's a good question. So, I like paper books. I mean, I'm kind of a Luddite in certain ways, and so it's kind of funny that I did this. But what is so cool, and you could like turn the pages and see a little bit. Oops, did it die?
I just turned it off.
Okay.
All right, let's
there
take
you
a
go.
look at the
there it is.
iPad
It's
here.
still there. You
Okay.
Okay, so if you click on those widgets there, and there's some data, and that's data about women in college and studying technology. And that's really, actually, this goes back to the economics question. And if you click on that widget there, so then you see more information and data. And if you want to turn some more pages.
I like this concept.
Yes, so part of why I did it like this, and I guess, is I did it because I think there's a lot of, when it comes to this issue, and like I said, it's economics, there's a lot of important data. And I like data. I'm a grant writer, and I'm kind of wonky, and it's interesting to me. But a lot of people don't like data. And so if you just write a book and you have all these graphs and say, women have been graduating from college at higher rates than men from the last 20 years, and the number of women who have are getting computer science degrees is half of what it was 25 years ago, people start to kind of turn off. But if you tell stories, and you tell stories about, for example, I have a Maui woman, Emily Swadek, who's a teacher at King Kekalika High School, and she was a computer science major, and she now is a STEM teacher, and she tells her story about going to school and why she made the choices she did, and then now working with other young people to train them in STEM, and while having kids. And that, when you're reading that, that's what actually creates the connection. That's what makes you realize, oh, she's just like me, or wow, she made a different choice than I did, but she's still in the same boat, because a lot of times parents too, they beat themselves up and they say,
oh gosh, yes,
why did I do this wrong? Oh, those people over there, they've got it all together, and I can't figure out how to balance all this. And so these are all kinds of different people telling their stories, which also lets you know too that there's so much diversity too in people's lives and families and the choices they make. But at the same time, while you're reading it,
okay, let's take a look here.
and yeah, so there I have a video.
Oh really?
Yes.
Hang on, let's see. Can I pull this up? Yeah. I'll pull this up.
And you can actually enlarge it.
Do it. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
I think that may have
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I think there's more women.
So, what are we listening to here?
So those are some women who have been working in the biotechnology field for some 20 years, and I had the good fortune, a friend of mine who is in biotechnology in California, she said, oh, we get together every year. Do you want me to film us having conversations about these issues? And I said, wow, that'd be amazing. And so they talked about what it was like in the 80s getting into biotechnology. They talk about the wage gap. They talk about how women negotiate differently from men. They talk about age discrimination with women. And so you can put done, and that should...
Okay, can I be honest? I don't know how to work this thing.
There you go.
This is
You did
my
it.
kid's computer.
You did it. You did it.
Yeah, Shaggy figured out something on the show today, boys and girls. I don't feel so dumb. All right, so biotech. I mean, and then just while I'm reading through this, and
That's back to the economy thing too. Yeah.
Let's just talk about the book itself. This is so cool.
I think it's really cool. Yeah.
I mean, okay, just think of this. Okay, so we do have radio listeners. So right now they can't stare at the TV and see this very neat.
So all
book.
of those you can tap on, right?
And each one of them, it's like just to paint this picture in your head, it's like being able to pick up the newspaper, read the newspaper while you have a Google screen searching parts that you find interesting popping up from here to there.
Right.
And if you have information that you think needs to be expounded on, you click on these widgets and they expand that information for you. So it's like you could go through and read this just as a book by itself.
Exactly. And so here's what makes it even more cool.
Okay. All right.
So all
Take
of
a look.
this is embedded, right? So if you're on the airplane, you're somewhere where you don't have internet access, everything you open is there. It's not like you have to be connected. However, almost every widget, actually that's not one, but almost everything that has data, it also has links. So if you read something that I've said about, and it can be, most of it is very directly related, but some of it's a little bit, like I have an interview with a woman who's a CEO of a company in Eugene, Oregon. And you may not know that Oregon is known as the Silicon Forest, and they're even trying to market Eugene as the Silicon Shire. which is kind of cute.
Eugene, Oregon.
Yes, so there's a lot of, that might be information you don't know. There's a lot of gaming companies, stuff like that. It's not super relevant to the story of this woman bringing her baby to her office, but you might just be interested. So you can click and then continue and learn more about that.
See, right here, you can jump to the link right at the end,
I'm
and then
afraid
it pulls up the
your
branch.
thing will crash, but hopefully not.
Look, if
But
my
we'll see.
daughter's watching
I
and
know.
you see Daddy crashing your iPad, honey, I will
Oh,
fix
see.
it. Okay,
Did it work?
but it does, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so there it worked.
So basically, I went from the book
Mm-hmm.
that pointed out a very interesting story, threw in some factoids there.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to click on one of those widgets and pull up this nice big expanded window here. And then, just to verify the information,
Exactly.
I'm able to...
So that way you can, you might read my assessment of it and go,
lady's a
who
little
does she
wonky.
know what she's talking about? Or you might, and some of the stuff that I link to is actually, it's not just a website, it's a full-on study of, women and venture capital, and it's 50 pages, and maybe most people are not going to want to read that, but somebody else might say, wow, this is actually, I am interested in this, I want to see it. But that's not where it doesn't even stop there. So here's the other piece, and you can do this probably with certain digital publications you get through on your Kindle or Amazon, but you can highlight sections of the book that you're interested in, and then you can make little notes, and I don't know if...
Oh,
Yeah.
you show me, but like I said,
I don't know if I can
I
do
don't
it.
want to break this thing.
Yeah, let me
I-
see. I'll see, I'm not going to do it right from here, but...
Oh,
So, yeah, so then you can highlight, and then from there, you can make yourself notes, and then you can actually email me if you want to. And this is now where we get to the next layer. So this is I have all these stories about all these struggles that all these parents have, and I have my belief about how, directions we can go to resolve them. And there are quite a few books out right now where people are talking about these issues, but people say, well, okay, so what's the solution? Well, in my view, we have all these different women and some men, and it's kind of a random group, but they're not victims. They're people who, they're surviving. It's a struggle. A lot of people say, my life is sort of held together by Scotch tape and paper clips. I'm afraid to breathe.
toothpicks and bubble gum over here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got it so far, things are covered. We need to fix the issues. We need it not to be a workaround. And so this is also a platform for solving the problems. And I update this book on a I've updated it once, and I will update it on a regular basis. So that way, when new information comes or when people start to interact and start to create solutions, then there's a new update, and then that includes more information. So that means people in the book can interact with each other, and I have various elected officials in the book. I have Colleen Hanabusa, Brian Schatz, our Lieutenant Governor Shan Tsutsui, whose
Wow.
office is up the road, and also Jill Takuda, who's a state senator. And so that's part of it. One of my updates, I had an update in February, and I had heard about this woman who I told you in Eugene, Oregon, who's a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
She has 3 boys, and she brought her newborns to work. And she has a very family-friendly office. Now, similarly, State Senator Jill Takuda, who you may not know of because she's an Oahu state senator, she has 2 boys. She brought her second to work, which was the Senate floor. So that was not exactly her plan.
Okay, well, just let's throw this out here
Right.
for consideration. I'm always the one that likes to look at the bright side of pictures.
Right.
Think about it this way. For once, on the state Senate floor, we knew exactly where the crap was.
Exactly.
I'm just saying,
There you go.
it was a positive having a baby on the floor. But guys see women interacting with their kids as being disruptive to women being able to be intelligent creatures, it seems, right?
Right. And so when you just said the thing a little while ago, you said all these women who, are balancing all this stuff and making it all happen. I read a really great post the other day by this woman I actually know named Valerie Young, who's in Washington, D.C. And she talked about how the people who should be in elected office are women with young children because they know how to get things done. They know what the problems are. They know how to work on very little sleep, very little time. They know how to anticipate when everything's going to fall apart. They're the people who should do it. Now, obviously, they need some support and childcare to be able to do that. And you look at somebody like Jill Takuda, she's chair of education.
Mm-hmm.
She's got kids who are like 5 and 7. I forget exactly how old. If anybody's going to know what the ins and outs are of the public schools and what the problems are, it's somebody who is, there. And she made a really good point because she was talking about how, and you probably know this, but the schools are always asking parents to do more.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Be here at this field trip, do this. And then we're told, well, the parents have to be involved for your kids to succeed. Well, if you don't have paid sick days, if you don't have maternity leave, if you barely make enough to make it, that's irresponsible for you to be at the school and not make sure your kid has health care and food and, the rent is paid and all that stuff.
So could we honestly go to the school system and tell them the one thing that our parents told us when we became parents? You guys figure it out and deal with it.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, look, as a parent, I know, and especially because I have that kid at that age that everything is a learning experience.
Right.
As a parent, it doesn't matter if you want to be involved in their education. You
have
are
to be.
involved in their education.
Right.
So, and I know this because sometimes I will bump my hand and say and they will repeat it.
Right.
I just educated them on how to. Yeah, that wasn't good.
Yes, you are the primary educator.
But
of
at the
course,
same
yeah.
time, when it comes time to getting off time here, going to school functions, going to things, even me, being the dad, I have trouble doing it. And for women, they've already had the time off for the maternity leave back when the kid was born.
Right.
So the boss has that in his head. Oh, I gave you all this time to have the kid. Then the kid gets sick growing up here and there. By the time it comes time for the elementary school years, when if she stayed at the same employer, it's time for her to have a little bit more time off here and there to get spend time with kids. You think that the boss is going to be a little bit reluctant because in their mind, being the guys,
Right.
and I'm not trying to be chauvinistic,
Right.
but the world is like that, so tough. In their minds, is it just a little odd that guys look at it like, I've already given you all this time
Right.
off for like it's a bank. I've given you all these days off already. Why should I give you more?
Well,
Is
and
that a real issue?
Yeah, well, and that's why you have the motherhood penalty and the mom's equal pay day, like I just said, right?
Mhm.
Mothers. And so, they're, first of all, like Jill Takuda being the state senator and being a mother. So that means she gets it. She gets how everything intersects. And the other piece, like you said, there's this kind of attitude of whether you're saying, oh, it's the dad's responsibility or the mom's responsibility, and it's usually more the mom's responsibility. There's also this attitude of, well, you had kids. That's not my problem.
Oh, yeah.
And that's an economic issue that people ignore completely because, yes, you wanted to have a child, I assume, and that's why you have a child. However, that child is going to pay into all of our Social Security. That child is going to be a police officer, a firefighter, a doctor, or whatever. When you're old and need that kind of help, our economy needs people to have children. We actually do need, if we want to continue, we do have, and it's a kind of an interesting issue because if you look at a country like Japan, they're having problems because they have very strict immigration laws, so they have, and because of social issues and because of the economy, people are having less children. And now the government is like, oh no, that's a problem because that's bad for our economy. So it is good for our economy for people to have children. At the same time, why this overall thing is a huge economic issue is because, and you have a daughter, so you'll see, and you may have experienced things with Title IX already, but because of Patsy Mink, who was our congresswoman from Paia, 42 years ago, she was instrumental in passing Title IX, which means that women have to have equal access as men to education, and that is why women are now enrolled in college at higher numbers than men, have been graduating with bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and doctorate degrees at higher rates than men. So they are more educated, and yet, once they get out of school and they hit the pipeline, they don't get promoted. So we're not taking advantage of the people who are educated. And I actually have 2 sons, but it's like, I want to see where we figure it out so that when all of our young people go to college, they realize whatever it is that your goals are in terms of your career, that you understand that there isn't already a fit for the family the way things are set up now. So we need to fix it so that you can, so that the father and the mother, if my son wants to spend more time with the kids and wants to be more engaged, that he has a work culture that allows that, so that both parents can say, okay, yes, we're workers, we care about the careers that we're doing, but we want to be engaged with our family too, and we both are going to have to work because that's our economy. We both want to work, but we also want to spend the time we need to with our kids. And that's good for everybody, because then, of course, you have the thing of, like, when your daughter's a teenager, well, if you're not able to pay attention and unpleasant things do happen, that impacts our economy also. So it's all interconnected, and yet somehow we put the whole family parenting thing to the side, and it's as if that, oh, that's your responsibility. That's your problem.
Wow. So back when we were a younger, more naive country, family, of course, was the cornerstone of how we did everything.
Mm-hmm.
Family, then community, then on out to
Right.
governor and things like that. It seems now, after we've went through the me 80s and the okay, honestly, I have no idea what the 90s were. I lived through them, but I have no idea what happened during them. Then we had the aughts, and now we're in the teens. Do you think after all these generations of changing the focus away from family and on to personal and individual successes and personal and individual merits, that as a society, I know this is kind of a big question, but as a society, we've eroded how valuable that we think just the family bond is?
Yeah, I think I graduated from high school in 1980, so it's quite a while ago. And, so that means I grew up in the 60s and the 70s. And to me, it seems like everything is so different. It's just the technology bubble where people made crazy amounts of money and nobody cared, like, what they actually did. It was just about the money. Yes, the me generation. Yes. I mean, when I went to college, you'd never heard of anybody going to business school. It was like people didn't do that. They, maybe they still wanted to make money, but they were doctors or lawyers or something like that. And so I think everything's gotten so sort of strange, and we do have all this stuff about sort of technology for its own sake, and that's why it is kind of funny that I've done this book that's so such a technological thing, because I'm not really into technology as a toy. I mean, I don't have an iPhone. My phone doesn't have any apps on it. I'm very, I don't know, maybe it was my husband always jokes that I was raised during the Depression, but it's like, I like utilitarian things, and that's why, to me, I like to use, I think if we could focus on technology being used in ways that help people, as opposed to just as a toy. And I'm going to be sort of sexist here and say that, technology is definitely a male profession these days. And I think maybe if more women were in technology, the kinds of things that we create with technology might be different. And that's part of it also, in a general sense, is we have a society right now that is very white male dominated. And that doesn't mean that, if you have other people, it will necessarily be better because the other people are better. But if you have a diversity of experiences and a diversity of ideas, we will definitely not be in the status quo anymore. At least it'll change, it'll shift, and we'll have different kinds of perspectives and experiences informing how we make decisions and what we do. And
okay, I've got to stop you because we're going to get ready for a break here in a second.
Great.
And honestly, just as one of those white male, I am so sorry what we've done.
Okay,
I mean,
I'm
seriously, I've been
white
listening
male.
to the last 4 minutes going, Jesus, where did we go so wrong? What did I do? But no, you do have some great valid points. And here's the thing. We've been kind of scatterbraining this first part of the interview just because I've been so caught up in how cool this thing is. But the book called Lean On and Lead, I want to talk about what the actual subjects are and some of the stories in it when we get back.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. And also, just, God, I want to play with it some more. This thing is so neat. All right. So I'll tell you what, we'll take a quick break here. In just a sec, we'll pause for some, I don't know what they do in these breaks. I don't pay attention to them. You can go to the bathroom, get a drink, soda, anything, or pick up the phone and join us at 877-6363. You can call in the show and ask questions, or just interact with our guest, who is Shay today, who's written a lovely book down here. This thing. Oh, this is great. All right. So 877-6363 if you'd like to call into the show. You're listening to us live on 88.5 FM. I keep forgetting we're radio and television. 88.5 FM and Akaku, Channel 55. Now let me hum for 1 second.
Did you know? These 6 major corporations control 90% of the media in North America. Akaku is public access TV, run by the people, for the people. Akaku is Maui County's agent of free speech and community media. Federal laws require cable companies to provide financial support for all public access programming. Akaku is your public access resource, and we're open 5 days a week. Community members can learn to use the equipment and tools needed to exercise their free speech. It's easy, too. Now you know.
At Akaku's Maui Community Television, we are committed to employing your access to media. Our goal is to certify community producers that will go out and create meaningful and local content for our viewing community. Akaku's Media Lab now offers classes in Apple Final Cut Pro 10, professional editing software. This class will cover basic editing skills and Final Cut Pro's 10 systems available at Akaku. With a maximum of 8 students to every instructor and 1 student per editing system, students will receive intimate and hands-on training.
And welcome back to the studio. I guess the name of this show is Live, but today this show is Holy Cow, because not only do we have this really cool book, and I know we've been talking about the technology that went into making Lean On and Lead, but now our guest Shay, author of Lean On and Lead, an exciting iBook that you can get through the iTunes store. I want to talk about actually some of the stories in the book. Now, I don't want to give them away, because if you're going to sell a book, I know your husband has been like really keen on you talking about stories in the book, but I need to warn him, don't want to give it all away, okay? This is the problem with guys. They like to just go, and it's all there. Got to leave some mystery, okay? So we want to tell some of these stories in here and really highlight what Lean On and Lead is about. So first off, I'm going to ask the obvious question, the title. What in God's name does that title mean?
Okay, so it means lean on and lead, obviously leaning on, and it's a little bit of a play on the book Lean In, which you may have heard of by Sheryl Sandberg, that was hugely popular or spoken about a year or so ago, and her premise was that women need to lean in more, and she was talking about sort of more of
Okay, whoa.
Yes.
When you say lean in, what do you mean? Because
Right,
I'm
right.
thinking
Why-
as a
why are you
guy.
leaning in?
I know, it's like you're leaning in, so
Yeah,
cleavage.
why?
Yay.
Yeah, that works.
Right.
No, so she means lean in. Well, it's one of the points that she makes, which is sort of interesting in the context of my book, is that a lot of times women already start to lean back in their careers because they're thinking about the fact that they do want to have children and families. So basically, she's talking about being more aggressive. She's also talking about, asking for salary raises, demanding a seat at the table, that kind of thing. And it was actually pretty controversial, the book. Some people said, oh, well, this is only about privileged, white women or in corporate situations. And one of the things that I felt was that I thought she said a lot of good stuff, but I thought she sort of ignored the children and the family and that kind of thing. And so what the point that I am making in the book is that in order to lead, women need to lean on. And by lean on, I mean lean on each other. And that's part of like community where women do that as parents, as mothers all the time. My car broke down. Can you take my kid? to such and such, can you, I mean, carpools and all the kinds of different things that women do where they lean on each other, or even letting each other know you don't want to apply for this job because they have terrible, maternity leave policies. And actually that sounds like a little thing, but if you're applying for a job and you're a woman, you don't want to ask what the maternity leave policies are, right?
No.
That's like the worst, like, oh, never mind.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's the dark secret.
Right. So you can't ask, even though, of course, legally it's not a problem, but so you don't do that. So women lean on each other. And even, I wrote a post a little while ago about Janet Yellen, who is the second highest woman in the country. I mean, she's the head of the Federal Reserve, right? I mean, she's the first female head of the Federal Reserve. So this woman is hugely accomplished, right? And as far as economics, everything, you wouldn't think she needs to lean on anybody. But when it came time for her to be appointed, she actually did have to lean on people, because there was, I don't know if you were following this, but there was a lot of talk about Larry Summers getting the position. And
well, there was definitely a political infight, and I found it odd that she still managed to come out on top.
Well, part of why she was more qualified, number one.
Yeah, that is number one. But
yes, exactly. But part of what happened is a whole bunch of other powerful women got together and they pressured the White House. And so that's not, I mean, I'm sure that's not the whole story, and I just read part of that story, and I'm hardly an expert on this. But my point is, even the most powerful women need to lean on other people and lean on each other. And really, in community, we should all be leaning on each other. But and also, and this gets back to other sort of issues when it comes to women and equality, is that sort of thing of us having a seat at the table, sort of in that thing where women then have to act like men, or women buy into the corporate culture. And that is part of why I also have these stories, is that we can redefine the way things are done. And that's part of the issue. We, as far as trying to be, well, now I'm losing
It's okay. I know, this is a very, very
and I'm thinking I should be telling stories.
I know, but it's hard not to get on this, because, see, the thing is at the end of the day, we have went through a period of the 1960s where it was race equality, okay? And then through the 80s and stuff, and the 70s, we had the pay equality kind of bubble up. But then all of a sudden, marriage equality came up this year. It seems like any time any other group starts vying for equality, we forget female and male equality. Would you say that that's the case?
Well, I think it's very complicated. So when you're talking about, like, and again, you probably don't follow this the way I do, but there was a big Twitter thing with a hashtag that was feminism is for white women. So there is the issue about whether, it's very different whether you're an upper class woman or a lower class woman. I mean, you could say, oh yeah, of course, back in the day, the mother stayed home and took care of the kids and the dad went to work. Well, yeah, that was the case if you were middle class or upper class, but poor people, both parents have always worked.
Yeah.
That's always been an issue, right? So there's, it's complicated with women, because there's all different kinds of women in different kinds of situations. And so I think on some level, people have felt like, oh, well, women can't unite and resolve these issues as a whole. I actually think that it's the flip side in a lot of ways, because, and this is part of why my stories are kind of interesting, is I have a range of different women. I have a woman who, is a venture capitalist, and she had nannies. I have another woman who has struggled. She has, I want to say, 7 children, and she has taken 18 years to get her bachelor's degree because of all the struggles that she had in having children. And, when I interviewed her, she was like 2 months away, and it was pretty exciting. But what I found is, among all women, whether they, are out in the workforce and very successful, whether they are struggling more and they're trying to get to that place, we all are in the situation where we feel like the system is not really set up so that we can do things the way we want to do them, so that we can give everything that we want to our kids, so that we can pursue whatever professional, trajectory that we want to pursue, or creative, trajectory. And we always worry about our kids. Even if you have, this terrible daycare that you're like, oh my God, is my kid safe? Or you have a nanny. It's like everybody wants what's best for their kids. Everybody is upset when their kids are sick. So I think it's an opportunity where women can actually unite across, economic divides, social divides, ethnic divides, because that is something that we all do have in common, and we all know, and we can empathize with each other. I think there's other situations where people have diversity and they have a hard time. Well, I can't relate to what your life is like. But when it comes to parenting, we all know that feeling of like, oh my God,
oh yeah,
what am
it's
I
called
doing wrong?
panic.
Yeah, exactly.
You live in it from the age of birth until.
Yeah, and you're always going to be somewhat, my son's going to college in 2 years, and then, this thing with the shooting and all this stuff, it's like you start to get like, oh my gosh, maybe we should just keep him on Maui, you get freaked out, but that you shouldn't be a day-to-day. It shouldn't be a thing where all the time you're like, this isn't working, this isn't right, and that's kind of what it is for a lot of people.
So the purpose of the book, essentially, is to remind people that you're not alone in your struggles and your problems. And especially for women who, a lot of times motherhood closes the bubble around them.
It's isolating.
Yes, they very isolated. They don't talk to their friends so much. They don't interact with the outside world as much because babies are a little time demanding.
Right.
So you get in this bubble as a woman and you start to feel like the struggle is only your own. And this book kind of would help remind them, hey, there's other ladies out there that are going through these same things.
Yes, and not just women. So like I said, I have 26 interviews, and I have at least, I think, 4 that are men. One of them is Shan Tsutsui, our lieutenant governor.
I got that one right.
Another one is an old friend of mine, actually, who is actually living in China now, but he's Swedish, and I wanted to have somebody in Sweden because Sweden is always held up as the ideal. And he raised his kids 20 years ago, so it was a little bit different then. But just to have some context, because even though he had much better access to social policies, he and his wife, they still had issues because he was a professor and she was actually wanted to become a newscaster, I believe. And so you still have the same time issues where 2 people working and who takes care of the kids. And then part of what I have in my book also that I think is a little bit different is because I have all these different professions and people talk about what their lives are like, you actually learn a little bit about what it's like to work in healthcare versus what it's like to work in academia and what it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think a lot of times we don't know. Why would you know what it's like to be an audiologist and what the options are? And it's not meant to be like a college catalog, here, I want to be this, but it does give you some perspective on how family-friendly certain fields are versus others. Like healthcare is interesting because it is predominantly women, but until you get to the top, because then it just always switches. But the good news about that is if you are breastfeeding, you do have a room with a couch and a refrigerator, and everybody gets it, versus if you're an engineer and you're, need to go pump and there are all these men around and it's like really stressful and you're like, I gotta go,
Yeah,
it's very uncomfortable.
I know, but at the same time, it's like in my head, I just imagine this really tough as nails broad with a cigar. Hey boys, what's going on? Pump hooked up like it's nonchalant. Somebody hand me those 2x4s. We need to frame a wall here.
But they're not really like that.
There are some very, very tough women. Are there, at least for the studies that you interviewed, who would you say would be the toughest woman in this book right now?
See, I would never think of any of them as, I think of them as, not in the way that you're talking about, as tough, I guess. I mean, I actually, and I found this out as I was doing the book, is I really love all these people that I interviewed. I have this immense amount of empathy and compassion for all of them, even though most of their lives are very different from mine. I don't know. They all are really, really smart. They obviously work really, really hard, and they've all done pretty amazing things. But I don't, it's like they're just people. So I don't think of anybody as tough or not tough or,
Really?
Yeah.
'Cause, I'm going to be honest. I'm a dad, and dads do stupid things. Moms, though, are the true soldiers of the families. Moms, they have to wade through stuff that dads gag on. I mean, it seems to me that that, you know, at least when I'm in my head being the crazy male that I am, when I think of strong women, I think of like Ram Bambino. I mean, you know, it's just...
Well, and I think of it as, so it's the way I'm trying to think of what the right adjective is, but this is the same reason why I think mothers should be in public office, is because women don't take any crap, or mothers don't take any crap, because they can't. You know, it's just like, we got to get in the car, we got to get down there, you know, grab your shoes, whatever, and you have to just make it work, whatever is going on. And mothers are used to that. They know how to do that. So in that way that they're tough, you know, and of course they have to be, you know, however you choose to raise your children, but you have to set boundaries, you have to make sure everything is working and everything is taken care of. So I don't know, the word to me isn't really tough, but it's extremely capable, extremely reliable, very down-to-earth, rooted, you know.
Badass.
Yeah, I like badass. That works.
Because I like to think that growing up, man, I had a mom that struggled as soon as she had kids. To really finish the parts of her life that she felt that she wanted to finish. So when I graduated high school, the very next year after I graduated high school, I got to go watch my mom graduate high school.
Oh, that's cool.
And a lot of women face this in modern society, where once the kids come along, and because of the way that we're set up in an economic sense, their life essentially goes on hold. Is that what you found when you were researching this?
It really depends on the woman, and that's the thing about the stories. You know, I have people like Kelly King, for example. I don't know if you know her, but she's a Maui. She's the vice president at Pacific Biodiesel, and she's one of the women who actually did not work while she was raising her kids, of course, but she did. She didn't have a real job. She was on the board of education. So I don't think that's a paying job, but she worked all the time, and it was based on all her community activism work. And then when her kids were grown, around that time, her husband had started Pacific Biodiesel, then she joined the company, and she's, you know, I think it's amazing what has happened for her, because she was able to totally focus on being a parent and a community person, and then have this opportunity once her kids were grown, and she had them relatively young, you know, I mean, I think in her early 20s probably. So then she can now have this life with this really cool renewable energy company. And so, but you can't plan that, right? You can't plan that, okay, well, when I'm done raising my kids at the age of 45, 50, I'm going to enter the workforce, and because I might think, hey, you know? I feel like I'm 25, you know, but that's not the way the real world looks at you. And then, you know, and then most women with their trajectories, with their career, you know, they have to take these little breaks, and so they have to kind of go up and down, you know.
What was one of the longest breaks that you had to take?
You know, I always managed to do some kind of work, but I've bounced around. Like, I did all my grant writing when my kids were young, and then I actually ended up homeschooling my kids for 4 years. And I had this crazy idea of combining that with running a retail children's bookstore in Makawao. And so...
Okay, this is going to sound odd. I went there.
You probably did.
I bought gifts for my daughter at that store.
Oh, good. There you go.
Now I know why you look so familiar.
I'm the bookstore lady.
It's a small world.
It's a small island.
Oh, God.
Yes.
So this is great. You ran the bookstore. That means that you must have been writing this during the time that you were coming out of that, right?
No, I was writing it last year, and I sold the bookstore. You might have gone when the person who bought it from me had it.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Okay. So
no, I remember you now.
Oh, okay.
It's been a while, though.
I left the store 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, but, it's been longer than that.
But all of these ideas obviously have been formulating this entire time, right? And you know, the truth is, I was just thinking about this. When my kids were first born, and we were feeling all those things about feeling isolated and like this system isn't really set up for parents and all that kind of thing, there weren't really many books about that situation. And now there are a lot more books, there's a lot more discussion about it, and of course even politically. I mean, people did not talk about parents and mothers, and now, you know, there's this, like I said, I'm going to this White House summit, and you know, so that's really, it's changed a lot. So I think there's definitely a chance for things.
And you know,
to
the
change.
funny thing is I was going to wait till the end of the show to spring that surprise, but you just let it out. You got invited to go to D.C.
I got invited to go to D.C. It's very exciting, yes.
Okay, why did they invite you and
And not you, yeah.
I mean, I would like to think that this show single-handedly has saved the human race.
It probably has, but I got the attention, but no,
No.
I don't, I mean, I wrote the book. That's why I'm invited. I don't know whether there were other people who did other things that could have gone.
Who
but
cares about them? You got invited
I
to
got
go to
invited.
Washington, D.C., and you're going to be at a place where the president's going to be.
I'm going to be, and Michelle, I really love Michelle. But, yeah, it's not at the White House, it's at the Omni Showroom, but the president's going to be there, Michelle Obama's going to be there, Biden's going to be there, his wife, who's a doctor, I guess, is going to be there, and it's going to be discussing issues related to working families and how to make what can be done to make the work culture more supportive of working families. So it should be super exciting. I was going crazy the last 2 days trying to figure out how to get there, but now I'm going.
Well, I mean, this is a huge accomplishment to go from somebody that, homeschooled her kids, worked around her kids, then decided, I'm going to open up this little business and do kids bookstores and stuff. Oh, you know what? All of this experience I'm going to throw into an ebook. You've went from basically from Maui to the White House over this project.
I like that.
And I love the fact that here, I want to pull this up, okay? Let's go to the iPad here. It's under your conclusion section.
Okay.
It says this sentence: while many of my initial perceptions of issues were confirmed, a broad variety of complicated and sometimes surprising themes emerged. When you're talking about that sentence specifically, what was probably one of the most surprising themes that you found in the research for Lean On and Lead?
I think, I made this point before, but the fact that everybody, and like I said, I have a range of people. I have some people who make a lot of money and some people who don't make very much money. But they all feel like you said, I mean, they're afraid to breathe. Whatever they've gotten figured out at this particular time, it's all temporary. And that's something about the book, was that I actually talked to a lot of different people who said that they were very much interested in being interviewed for the book. But as working parents, finding the time to talk to me for an hour was really hard. And then even after I wrote the book, because of the way I did it, after I would write down an interview, I would go back to the person because it wasn't meant to be an expose, right? And people are talking about their personal lives. So I'd say, you can review and see if there's, you don't want me to say this about your husband or say this about your mother or your child or whatever. And that sometimes was a struggle because people would then get super busy and things happen. Because when you have a family, things happen. People in your family die. Things happen with your kid. Suddenly the child care that they had was lost. One of the people, let's see if she's there, is this woman, Dana, who had a young child, and she's in Silicon Valley, and she has a good job. She was had her MBA. She tells this really great story, and as I'm following up with her, she says, we may have to move because we lost our nanny. And you go, wow, how does losing your nanny mean you have to move? But she lives in this really expensive, don't worry about it.
I'm going to find her.
I think she's actually back there right now. But
well, in that case,
anyway,
you got the wrong name.
I know. But anyway, so she had a child care share with her with her nanny. Actually, that's somebody else. But anyway, Dana.
I tried so hard.
I know, that's Beth. But she had on-site child care, so that's really great. But so what happened was everything is so interconnected. So obviously having a nanny for a young child is pretty expensive. She and her husband, I think, made pretty good money, but it's still expensive, so she shared it with another family. That other family dropped out. Suddenly it's, $25,000 a year or more on their own. That's a lot of money. Then, housing prices, et cetera, and she was like, I think I may have to move. And luckily, later I found out that it all, they found he got a little older and could go into a daycare or whatever. But that is definitely something to be cognizant of, is that even when you get it worked out, and I can remember this viscerally as if it was yesterday, and my younger's going to be 16 next week, and my other is 17. Oh, there you go, yeah. You know, that feeling when your child care situation falls through and you're just like, oh my gosh, you know, I can't go to work tomorrow. And, you know, and it can be anything. I mean, I remember we had a neighbor and she was wonderful and was all set up, and she calls me up, and the minute she started talking, I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to tell me she's pregnant. And she said, I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh my gosh, you ruined my life. You know, and you're like, oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, now what are we going to do? You know?
No, it's like, great for you. Who's going to take care of my kid?
You know, and that's like how, you know, you experience that over and over again. And so that to me is really like, and then other things were the fact that the teen years, the parents, you know, you don't think that's a big deal, but it's a huge deal. And that's something you can't outsource. You can't have a nanny take care of, you know. And
Can I ask you just an honest question? And I mean, this is just between parents.
Yes.
All right. And really, at this point, even if people are watching the TV, I don't care what they think of me. Is there any point of your day when you were raising your teenagers that you thought, dear God, I wish I had a taser? I mean, I'm being serious, because teens are just, you know?
You have to just realize that they're insane. That's what you have to realize. Our oldest son, people were like, oh, he's the most wonderful kid, and he's so whatever. And then he became this crazy monster. And now he's 17, and I have revenge because he has a job at Summer Palace.
Ah, yes. You know, and see, the thing is I should be really, really careful of insulting teenagers, because tonight's show is actually ran by a couple of teenagers.
And I love teenagers personally, but it's an emotional roller coaster. It really is an emotional roller coaster.
You know, I love them as long as they're quiet, I think. No, I'm kidding, of course. But, you know, you do go from being the mom of kids that just love and adore you, and then in the teenage years, their attitudes kind of shift, because we all go through it. We're trying to find our own identity and everything. Did you find that when you were writing this book and stuff, that whole being the mom of somebody trying to find their identity in the world, did that ever come up in your investigations of people talking about self-identity? And
actually, we didn't get into that much. It was more the thing about how, this one of the things that came up, where a lot of people changed their work situation to be around more when their kids became teenagers. So it's almost like, you know, you have that kindergarten through maybe 13, 14, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to work.
I see. So you basically plan to be around during the ages that your kids don't want you around.
Right, exactly. And that's a tricky situation.
Okay, I see this. So what I need to do is, like, all of the stuff that she does from now until 6th grade, I'm just going to ignore all that crap.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait till she goes to junior high, and I'm going to go to school every day.
Exactly, and go right with her.
You know?
Well, and I think the trick is, and this works for us because we work at home, which I think it must be much harder if you have to go somewhere. But the trick is to sort of not be there, but be there. So you don't, your kid doesn't want to talk, you know, when he comes home, he doesn't want to tell you what his day was like, but you need to be there so you're sort of overhearing stuff and that kind of thing. But also so that when he has that one moment where he wants to come in and just tell you some funny story, you're there and you can make that connection. But then also you know who their friends are, you know what's going on and that kind of stuff. And I know we're almost out of time.
No, it's okay. I love how you're like, I know we're almost out of time when I'm talking to No, it's fine. I care nothing about time on this show. I am having such a lovely talk with you. And I got to say, thank you so much for letting me check out the book, Lean On and Lead. I'm going to go home and I'm going to read it.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to let my wife read it. And then, maybe we'll all come back and we'll do a review of this.
And I can interview you guys and you can be in the book.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
But I love the concept. I love the stories in it. And I got to say, congratulations on DC.
Oh, thank you so much.
God, have fun. And tell Barack I said hi.
Absolutely.
By the way, is there anybody, we got like a couple seconds here. Is there anybody you'd like to say hi to?
No, I guess I just thank everybody who's been supportive of me, and it's really exciting. It's really fun, and it's fun to have the community support. And I have a lot of people who have helped me actually, editing it for me, and obviously contributing the stories and
keeping the kids out of your hair while you did all this.
Yes.
Oh God, those poor kids. No, I'm kidding, of course. thank you so much for coming on, Shay.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you back after you're from
Yeah, I
back
would
from
love to
DC
do that.
too.
I would love to come back.
And just get a picture, you know?
Yeah, the selfie, yeah.
Exactly. Oh, God. Well, for everybody else, we got to say thanks for joining us here on Live at 5 o'clock. Tomorrow, come back. We'll have another great show. We'll be talking to a guy that wants to make houses, tiny, tiny little houses. And you'll see why. It's a great, brilliant plan. That's tomorrow. I do have to say big thank you to our 2 interns hanging out here behind the glass. Hi, that's Kaala. That's Carolyn. They've been our film crew for the show, and an excellent job, one and all. So thank you so much, guys. Yay! All right, so tomorrow, join us for Eric Blair. And, well, until then, I got to go. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening.